Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to annotate this poem. I'm going to use the 7 T's to help me to do it. So the 7 T's are time and place or context, title, textual form, tone, themes, techniques, and tail. It doesn't matter what colour you use, you don't even have to use different colours. I just think that if you separate it out into different colours, it helps you to actually identify the different parts of the poem so that you can understand it more. And remember, the purpose of annotating a poem is simply to find out what it's about, to find out the meaning, and to work out the intention that the poet is trying to communicate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with time, because I think there's not much information that I can go off here. And so here I've got time, and you can see that it says 1979, and it says that he is an English poet, Philip Larkin. Now, I don't know anything about Philip Larkin. I wasn't born in the 70s, and I wasn't born in England, so I don't really know much about that. So you might find, though, one day a poem that gives you some more detail. For example, if it was written in 1916 in the Western Front, it might tell you really clearly that it was a World War I poem. Let's move on. Let's go to title now. So I'm going to switch my colour here to purple, just to be helpful. And the title of this poem is The Mower. And so the mower, I know, is a piece of equipment. It's noisy. It's dangerous, and potentially it's helpful because it cuts grass. So that's the title. Sometimes the title will be really helpful. I can presume from the title here that this poem is going to be about a lawnmower. Let's read the poem. What I've noticed first of all is that it's split up into 4 stanzas. So I'm going to switch here to textual form. So first of all, we know it is a poem, and I've got stanza 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what I've noticed here is that you've got 3 lines, 3 lines, 3 lines, and then 2. And so that tells me that something changes and shifts in the last part of the poem. Let me read out the poem. The mower stalled twice, kneeling. I found a hedgehog jammed up against the blades, killed. It had been long in the long grass. I'd seen it before and even fed it once. Now I had mauled its unobtrusive world unmendably. Burial was no help. Next morning, I got up and it did not. The first day after the death, the new absence is always the same. We should be careful of each other. We should be kind while there is still time. So interestingly, in terms of the textual form, I've got here stanza 1, which is now. I've got stanza 2, which is in the past. I had seen it before. And then we've got the next day. So what I'm going to say is next. And then I've got here future, because he's almost making a, presuming the speaker, the persona, is a bloke. He's got this sort of looking forwards to the future. So there's something here about this unfinished 4th stanza that tells us about what's next and what's in the future. Okay, I'm going to have a look at tone now. I'm going to switch colours again, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the poem and I'm going to look for words that tell me something about the vibe or the mood or the feeling of the poem. So I'm looking for words. So here I've got the words, the mower stalled, twice kneeling I found a hedgehog jammed up against the blades, killed, it had been in the long grass. I had seen it before I even fed it once. Now I had mauled its unobtrusive world unmendably. Burial was no help. Next morning I got up and it did not. It did not. The first day after a death, the new absence is always the same. We should be careful of each other. We should be kind while there is still time. So we've got this list of words, and we can call this a lexical chain or a chain of words, or we could talk about vocabulary. I'm just going to write them down. So we've got, oops, spelling mistake. We've got stalled, jammed, killed. All right, so look at all these words. They all end in the same sound, and so they build up a bit of a picture here. Stalled, jammed, killed, mauled. All right. And so each of those together starts to create a bit of a tone of something damaged or not working. So I'm starting to get a picture of the feel and the vibe here. Unmendably, it's like you can't change it, can't fix or change. All right, burial was no help. Here you've got these interesting words, unobtrusive and unmendably. So unobtrusive, that's a word I want to find out the meaning for. So I'm going to say words with a question mark. So I'm going to say unobtrusive, unmendably. They're the two words that I wanted to check the meaning of. I've got this funny word absence. I want to work out what that word means. And then what you could do is you could go and look those words up and find the definition of them and see if that helps you to understand. Unobtrusive means it doesn't stick out, it's not in the way, it's not causing a fuss. Unmendably, you can't mend it, unmendable. And then you've got absence, emptiness, it's not there, it's disappeared, it's been rubbed out. So we start to get this tone of sadness, destruction, death. Now I'm going to switch to a different pink colour here because what I want to do, this red colour, sorry, is I want to actually have a look here at the idea of some of the other words that create a bit of a tone. So we've got hedgehog, we've got grass, we've got unobtrusive world, we've got the idea of mourning, we've got this idea of sameness, kindness, time, and together those words become a bit of a lexical chain or a chain of words, and they start to create this sense of the natural, lovely, peaceful world, and that becomes a contrast with those other words of stalled, jammed, killed and mauled. Now if you take those, they're both types of techniques, aren't they? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch colours now to bright pink. I'm going to skip themes for a moment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start identifying some techniques. So here we've got these descriptive words of death and they've all got a similar sound. So we'll talk about, they're not rhyming words, but they've got a similar sound. So as a sound device. Okay, we've also got this idea of lexical chains with words that become you know, dangerous and damaged and deathly, you know, blades, stalled. I'd even fed it once. Once and death and burial start to create this sense of the past and what's been unavoidable. So you could think about what are the nouns, what are the verbs, what are the adverbs, and what are the adjectives. So the mower and the hedgehog, they're both nouns and they describe this great contrast between the natural, and I'm going to say grass and hedgehog. And I'm going to say with the man-made, and I mean human-made or mechanical, of the mower. All right, and so that creates this sense of the changing world between these two creatures. All right. So we think about the techniques there that build this sense of what's happening. And you think about all the other poetic devices. Is there rhyme? There's no rhyme. Is there a stanza? Yes. Is there a similar syllable length in the lines? It's similar. It creates a bit of a rhythmic pattern. There's a lot of enjambment. Now, enjambment is where, I'm just going to shorten that to enjambment, where the lines go over each other. I found a hedgehog jammed up against the blades, killed. I'd even seen it before, I'd seen it before and even fed it once. That's a full stop there, but then you get this sense of the line going over. Now I had mauled it, its unobtrusive world, unmendably. You got lots of these short sentence types, or short sentences. Some of them are even only one word. So, next morning I got up and it did not. It's a short sentence. It's quite sort of blunt and to the point. I had seen it before and even fed it once. The mower stalled twice. Kneeling, I found a hedgehog jammed up against the blades, killed. It had been in the long grass. So all of this idea of the techniques that are created to create this story are used for an effect. The short little pithy sentences start to make us feel like little gut punches, little stabs. So we get to the idea of tale. And we could talk about the different characters in the tale. So we've got the mower, and presumably, I'm going to say Phil Larkin as the persona, but we talk about the persona who is pushing the mower. We've got the hedgehog, and there's this story about the relationship between the two. We can see here in the tale, the story of the characters, that the persona has seen the hedgehog before. It's fed it. This is a precious creature that he cares about and loves in his garden. But actually what we've got is this situation where he accidentally has killed the hedgehog. He's cutting through the grass with his mower, trying to control nature. This nature is an unobtrusive world that doesn't actually make any impact on the man, and yet he cuts the grass, and this hedgehog is squashed and cut up in the blades. Over here we've got this idea of him reflecting on the death of this creature. So the tale really is what was happening right now. He thought about his relationship with the hedgehog and with his garden. He's thinking about the fact that he can't fix it. And in the future, he's thinking, actually, this makes me think that we should be kind to each other, because we just don't know how much time we've got with our relationships, with our friendships, with the people or the creatures in our gardens. And so we've got this idea of tale. So tale is the point of view, it's the characters, it's the story. All right, so themes, some of these are a bit similar. Nature versus humanity. We've got man versus beast. We've got now and we've got the future. We've got reflection on death and the potential of what could happen, how important relationships are. So that's our themes. So you could actually start writing themes as they come up. So I'm going to say death and life. All right, and I want to find some examples of it. So I've got burial, I've got once, and I've got while there is still time. I could say man versus nature. All right, and I can link that up there to the mower and the hedgehog. All right, so as you start building up your themes, what you're doing is this should look quite colourful and messy. Your big goal is to work out what you think the poem is all about. And so at the end of reading this particular poem and annotating it, I think I've worked out that this poem is, it's sad, it's reflective, it makes the man stop and think about his nature as a person, whether or not he has an impact on the environment and what impact he has. He talks about violence and the sadness of death and what impact he might have going into the future, both with animals and with other people.